go to Ramallah in the West Bank and speak to Hanan Ashrawi, a member of the PLO Executive Committee. Good to have you with us. So, first of all, can you tell me, why has the PLO rejected the US economic part of the plan for Palestinians?
Well, actually, it's not using the term rejected or rejectionism is actually misleading, because the side that has rejected everything is the American and, of course, inclusion with the Israeli side. They've rejected international law. They've destroyed the chances of peace. They've undermined all the components of a genuine solution. And they have diverted and distracted the whole issue into a question of a handout to the Palestinians under the occupation. So they have failed really to discuss the components and requirements of peace and the reasons, and the reasons for the lack of development and prosperity, which are basically the Israeli occupation, Israeli control of our land and resources, Israel's theft of our land and resources, control of our lives, of our freedom of movement, of our airspace, of our territorial waters. And then they wonder, why don't we want to improve our prison conditions? And clearly this plan seeks to normalize the occupation, seeks to entrench it and to legalize the settlement enterprise in Palestine, while at the same time rewarding Israel by normalizing it within the region. So there's no reason to be part of such a plan, which in itself is probably non-practicable and will not see the light, but it creates the impression that there's activity and movement, and it prevents other serious initiatives while buying time again for illegal unilateral measures and for expanding what they call Greater Israel on all of historical Palestine.
Interestingly, some of the thoughts coming out, the reactions coming out of the conference seem to be positive. Saudi Arabia, for example, is supporting this plan. It says that it could lead to sustainable development on the ground, and that in turn could lead to hopes of peace. What do you make of the input from some of the delegates who were attending the conference in Bahrain?
Well, this is first putting the cart before the horse. If you want to have real development, sustainable development and peace, then you have a legal and political solution that is based on international law. You don't punish the Palestinians, you don't defund them. What the US has done was to defund all the projects on infrastructure, on even hospitals, the refugees, and so on, and then claim that it wants economic prosperity for the Palestinians. Anybody who deals with reality, who sees what's happening, and who sees the Americans being complicit with Israel in land theft and the illegal annexation of Jerusalem, the assault on the Palestinian refugees and trying to destroy their institutions and so on. And they see the Americans refusing the two-state solution, refusing to even mention the term occupation, refusing the two-state solution, the 67 borders. How can we assume that such diversionary tactics will work, and especially with the Arab countries, whose Arab peace initiative is being denied before their very eyes, whose Israel's illegal land annexation, not just of Jerusalem, but of the Syrian Golan Heights, is taking place, and they will accept to enter the tunnel of economic prosperity when Israel has an unlimited capacity for destruction without any accountability or genuine intervention. To us, we understand there were some countries who couldn't say no to Trump, who have other cards to play with Trump, and they're willing to look the other way when it comes to this issue. But at the same time, I don't think they're as naive as they seem to be, in that they think that this is a pathway to genuine peace.
Do you not believe then anymore that the US and the majority of the international community still believes in a two-state solution and still believes that a two-state solution is achievable?
The U.S. certainly, this administration has never accepted the two-state solution because it acts on the basis of Israeli, I don't want to say instructions, let's say priorities, and it has adopted this extremist right-wing Israeli agenda. So it was never in the loop, so to speak, and it has changed even long-standing American policy. The Arab world has an Arab Peace Initiative, and it talks about the two-state solution, but it is also based on full withdrawal from the occupied Arab territories, not full annexation from occupied Arab territories, including Palestine. So if the Arabs are changing their position, they haven't declared it publicly. But the entire world is still committed. There is a global consensus on the two-state solution, and they're committed to that. But the problem is that they're sitting back without any kind of intervention, without any kind of accountability for Israel or curbs on Israeli behavior, and they're watching Israel deliberately and systematically destroying the two-state solution. And at the same time, they are paying lip service to it by saying we are committed and we support it, and Jerusalem is the capital of Palestine, and the borders are 67, and so on. So if they actually believe that, why aren't they taking steps to prevent preempting and prejudging the requirements of peace and destroying the chances of peace by Israel and the US? Why are they allowing Israel to do that and then feeling that they've done their national duty by reaffirming their commitment to a two-state solution? If it is disappearing, then I think it is the responsibility of the international community to come up with an alternative. You cannot constantly ask the weaker party and the victim to come up with new and creative ways, as they keep saying. No, let the international community enact its own and respect its own legal system, its own global rule of law, and to ensure that the aggressor can be held accountable and that the victim can be protected. If not, then come up with creative ideas about the nature of the one-state solution. Is it an apartheid solution? Is it a system of systematic and so-called legal discrimination? Or are they working towards one state with one person, one vote, equal rights, and so on in all of historical Palestine? Or are they working for a greater Israel that is attempting to eradicate the presence, the history, the culture of the Palestinian nation and hence the Palestinian state? These are questions that the international community has to ask itself, that the whole legal system has to respond to. And I think that if you allow Israel to pursue such a course of action, you are sending a very dangerous message to the rest of the world that might is right and international law doesn't apply, especially if you have powerful sponsors who will bend the law to suit your own priorities.
Hanan, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Hanan Ashrawi there.